Hey friends, what's up? Philip here with Points of Philip, and I'm here because I want to break down the Amex earnings and kind of what it means for maybe credit cards at large. So before we do that, I want to ask you guys to like and subscribe. Doing that helps me know that what I'm doing is helpful, and that it actually means that YouTube actually ends up starting to push this video out to more people, something I also am really appreciative of. So thanks so much for helping me out. Now let's get into the news and why you should care. So, American Express profits surged 16% in quarter three, driven by wealthy card members. So, this is a version of the AP article. So, we're actually going to zoom in a little bit for you guys so you can see it along with me. So the New York-based company said it earned 2.9 billion in the quarter, up 16% from 2.51 billion in the same period last year. So on a per-share basis, the company earned $4.14 compared to $3.49 a year earlier. And so basically, Amex is making money. So what happened with Amex? Why are they making money? So essentially, basically, they recently increased the annual fee of their platinum card to $895, which we've definitely talked about extensively on this channel. And what's interesting, so there's a couple of things that are going on. So first of all, people are really interested in the Amex Platinum card, right? So the company got 500,000 requests from existing customers to convert their card to the new mirrored finish in 3 weeks, which company executives expected to get 500,000 requests by the end of the year. So a lot of people are very happy about talking about the shiny new the shiny new mirror finish of the Amex Platinum credit card. So now this is a telling quote. So the initial customer demand and engagement exceeded our expectations, with new U.S. Platinum account acquisitions doubling compared to pre-refresh levels. So notice how you haven't heard, though, on any of the data here about the number of people that are newly getting the Platinum card. Instead, they're talking about kind of existing customer engagement. So it seems to me that most of the people that have the American Express card, or at least 500,000 of them, at least in the first 3 weeks, are very keen on getting the brand new design. Now, does that translate into more and more people getting the card recently? Maybe not. Maybe not. We don't know that for sure because there's not any data on that on this information. Now, what there are two interesting data points though that I definitely do want to talk about is that average spend on Amex cards in the quarter was $6,387. So across all Amex cards that people have in a quarter, so that's 3 months, the average spend was $6,387, which means, the average person is spending roughly a little bit more than $2,000 a month across each of their Amex cards. And so that's true if you only have one platinum card, right? But that's true if you have the platinum card, the gold card, and the American Express Green card, or even the Blue Business Plus card. So that's all kind of encompassed in this. The average person that has an Amex card spends $6,387 per quarter. And so what's interesting is because they like to pitch the idea of they are only targeting whales. And that's certainly true, right? They certainly definitely want the high net worth individuals. But it seems to me that in order for this to be the average, it's either true that there's a lot of super high individuals and there's a lot of people that just have Amex cards and sit on them, or it's possible that it's kind of more in line with like a traditional credit card, company, right? It's more feasible that they're actually just giving these cards to whoever applies for them, and the average person is just spending averagely. Like $2,000 a month is not unheard of for most people to be able to spend on credit cards every month. And so that's interesting, but that's also up 5% from a year earlier. Now, 5% increase year over year is good, but especially when you consider the fact that inflation was around 3 to 4% for that year, you're not seeing more people spending more money on the cards. You're just seeing about the same amount of people spending about the same amount of card on the cards. Just things cost more, and so this is important to know, right? Everything's perfect, everything's amazing, but 5% a year over year increase is not something that would cause me to think, oh my God, this company is doing fantastic, like I have to invest more. Like, to be fair, I am invested in Amex, right? It's a decent buy. But this is not this like blockbuster earnings statement that everyone's saying that it should be. Now, what is interesting though, and what is the kind of the big, huge blockbuster here is card members continue to increasingly carry a balance of their cards as well, with the company now reporting 139.95 billion in loans, up from 8% from a year earlier. So this is not income from loans. This is how much money they have in outstanding balances on a carried basis, right? And so essentially, basically 100, nearly 139 billion dollars is in loans from American Express, which means each of those cardholders have a collective $139 billion in money that they're carrying balances on, which means American Express is charging 25 to 30% APR on those balances. And so this is huge. So, I know when I first started watching credit card YouTubers, everyone loved to say that American Express, they don't get their money from interest, right? They get their money from the interchange fees. And they do, right? They get more interchange fees than any other bank company because they're a network and a bank. And so that's the high that Capital One's chasing by buying Discover, right? But what you have to take a look at here is that they are very much entering that at, completely as well. All right, so I want to compare this to Capital One. So this is from the July earnings statement from Capital One, as reported by Reuters. So here we are. So they essentially basically said that a rise in second quarter adjusted profit on Tuesday. Let's see. So the information here that I wanted to talk about is the net interest income for Capital One is $10 billion, right? So net interest income, $10 billion. If we go back to here, this was, we don't say the actual interest income, but we do see that they have $139 billion comparatively for the first quarter in Capital One. So this is just the information that I was able to find. In the first quarter, let's see, credit card period end loans decreased 5.3 billion or 3% to 157 billion dollars. So Capital One, known for earning interest income, has credit card loans out of $152 billion. American Express, known for not making interest on income, it has $139 billion in loans based on credit cards. And so this is huge. American Express, despite the fact that the amount of cards that they have compared to Capital One is far smaller, but they have nearly as much in loans, outstanding loans on credit cards as Capital One, which means American Express is doing something that's working. And that's encouraging people to overspend. That's encouraging people to make, decisions where they're actually putting more money on their cards and leaving it there. Now, I have to talk about the kind of the strategy here. So I have so first of all, I have 5 AMEX credit cards. So I have the Blue Business Plus, the Blue Business Cash, the Delta Business Gold, and then I also have the Hilton Aspire and the base model Hilton card as well. And so those are my personal cards. But then I also, on the charge card side, have the Gold card, the Platinum card, and then I also have the Business Gold and the Business Platinum card. And so all of those cards, I am only carrying a balance on my business cash card at the moment because I have a 0% interest that expires at the end of this year. And so we're actually on track to pay out that off, but everything else is kind of paid off as the statement closes. But what I have noticed is that American Express is continuously sending me emails saying my pay over time limit on my Gold card or my Platinum card has increased. And so what they're doing is they're saying, hey, you can super duper, make sure that you actually, use this pay over time limit. You can be lending or, borrowing money from us and paying that interest, right? This is what they're talking about. This interest is insane. It's up 8% year over year. So this is something that they're trying to sporadically do. They are actually they have bonuses for turning on pay over time. They'll throw 20,000 points at you. They are trying to get people to do anything for pay over time. They've sent me emails where they actually work on, helping me to, reduce the fees of adding a large purchase to pay over time. Essentially, whenever I go to Amex Travel to try to make a booking, it says, oh, you could use pay over time for this purchase. They are pushing pay over time very hard, and it's kind of working for them. You can see that they, despite the fact that they don't have nearly as many credit card individual accounts as Capital One, they have nearly as much in credit card related loans as Capital One. And so that's kind of huge because we all like to think of Capital One as being the big bad when it comes to interest income, but American Express is making sure to work really, really hard at doing that. And so I think that's kind of the top story here, right? So American Express, they love to talk about the fact that everyone likes the Amex Platinum card. But when you take a look at places like Caleb Hammer videos, right? What do you notice? You see those platinum cards, you see those gold cards, and what do the people say? We like our points, but they're $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in debt to a credit card that's charging 28, 29% interest. That's insane. That is insane. So what can you do, right? Do you need the new shiny American Express Platinum card, right? Maybe, right? No, first of all, no one needs the American Express Platinum card, but do they want it, their nice little lounge? Do they want their nice little lounge? Do they want people to say ooh and ah whenever you pull out your mirrored credit card? Absolutely. That's the draw of American Express. You're paying $895. You're getting value later, right? And then in exchange for all that, you get to go to a lounge every once in a while, and then you get to owe American Express money. So that's kind of like it's an interesting perspective shift, right? So we like to say that American Express, oh, they love the big dogs, right? They do. I absolutely love the big dogs, right? Being able to put a $30,000 purchase on a card and not have to worry about paying it back for another month or so without interest, that's insane, right? That is amazing. And obviously, having a charge card is better than not having a charge card for flexible spending levels. And that's what we're seeing here. But more and more people are carrying that balance, and it's making money. It's making American Express money. Let's take a look at the earnings. So we can say here, I'm looking at this is one day. Let's take a look at 6 months. So basically started in April at 242 a share, and it is currently at 346 a share right now. So it's had a substantial couple of months. Now we can actually see exactly when they made that announcement. So you can see they were at 327, and then once after they made the announcement, 341. It shot up. And so if you did hold American Express as a stock, you made a decent chunk of change. I made a decent chunk of change. Let's take a look at the 1 year. We see that there was kind of a negative drop here in April. So that was probably been maybe a less than optimal earnings season. But yeah, so we can see that, they're making money, right? They're making money. They're exceeding their estimates in earnings, but they're doing it off of the backs of actual, interest income in addition to the interchange income. So they're absolutely killers at making that interchange income, but they are really good at making you spend more money than you plan to. So what you need to do, first of all, is you need to evaluate your spending. If you are one of those people that is giving American Express interest income every single month, you can work to change that, right? You can do a balance transfer card, right? You can do things like that. But what you first of all have to do is start budgeting. So you have to use a budgeting app that syncs with your bank. So a lot of people, they say they don't like those types of budgeting apps because what they do is they talk about basically you want to deal with your privacy, right? You don't want to give away your login information. You don't want a company to be looking at all your stuff. I'm lazy. I need that, right? I need my budgeting app to have full access to everything. That way it categorizes everything and it asks me, is this the right transaction, right? It gives me alerts. That's what I want out of my app. So I am not going to be putting a link in the description below for a referral for anything, because I don't want you guys to think that's why I'm making this video. This is just essentially me trying to help you guys figure out what you need to do next, right? And so this is my personal thing. I use Copilot, but I use it because I have iPhone, right? But I also love it because I have an iPad app and a Mac app. And so no matter what I'm on, I can actually check my balance, check my budget, and then it actually tells me. So before I'm spending money, it says, okay, you have $200 left to spend on groceries for the rest of the month. And so I know that that's how much I have to spend. And so I can make decisions based on that. And so this is really helpful. So need to get a budget and need to start shifting some of those balances to a 0% interest deal. Those debt consolidation loans, they can be lower, but I don't really see them being kind of as worth it. Maybe I'm wrong, right? Check your particular situation, but anyway, start getting control of your spending, start getting control of those balances. And maybe, if you're someone who is carrying a balance and needing to engage in those things, maybe you don't need a credit card that costs $895 a year, even if you are getting that value, right? Time to lock in, right? But anyway, I just kind of wanted to talk about these earnings because some things kind of stood out to me, like the earnings on the non-interest, or the interest income, and so I just wanted to talk about that. But anyway, thanks again for joining me, and well, I can't wait to see you guys again. Until next time, have a great day. Bye.